Fire crackled in the Apache camp, shadows dancing against the desert night. Warriors gathered, their laughter sharp as knives. At the center stood a weary cowboy, his wrists bound, his hat long gone. The Apache chief stepped forward, voice dripping with mockery. "You want peace, cowboy? Then take my daughter. Take the one no man here will have." Gasps echoed as a young woman, eyes downcast, was shoved into the firelight. She bore the weight of shame, unwanted by her own people. The warriors roared with cruel laughter, yet the cowboy's eyes softened. He stepped closer and whispered, "Yes." Like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want more stories like this.
Silence fell heavier than the desert night. The Apache chief's smirk faltered. No one had expected the cowboy to agree, not to her. Her name was Aiyana, the daughter whom whispers followed like ghosts. She had been called cursed, unwanted, a burden to her father's honor. Now before the tribe, this pale-skinned drifter, this enemy, claimed her hand as though it were a gift. The warriors jeered louder, clapping each other's backs. "Let him have her! Let him be cursed too!" But beneath the laughter, Aiyana's eyes lifted for the first time. She met the cowboy's gaze and saw no mockery, no disgust, only quiet resolve. The chief barked orders. The prisoner was free, but only as Aiyana's husband. Their fates were bound. Exiled from the camp, sent into the wilderness together, they were meant to suffer, to vanish like dust in the wind. Aiyana walked ahead, chin trembling, expecting scorn from this strange man. Instead, the cowboy caught up, placed his jacket over her shoulders, and said softly, "If they meant to shame me, they failed. I see only a woman with strength." Her heart stumbled at his words. For the first time in her life, someone had looked at her and seen worth. But that was only the beginning.
The desert stretched endlessly, its silence louder than war drums. With nothing but the clothes on their backs, the cowboy, whose name was Samuel, walked beside Aiyana. She stole glances at him, expecting bitterness, expecting him to abandon her as others had. Instead, he whistled softly, scanning the land like a man at home among hardship. When night fell, Samuel built a small fire. Aiyana, used to whispers and rejection, kept her distance. At last, she asked, "Why did you take my hand? They meant it as a joke." Samuel shrugged, poking the flames. "A joke loses its teeth when you take it true." Her heart tightened. His words were simple, but they carried weight. She remembered the tribe's cruel laughter, her father's cold eyes. And now, beside this stranger, she felt a seed of something dangerous, hope. But survival was cruel. Coyotes howled in the night, water ran low. Aiyana, though strong, faltered under the desert sun. Samuel lifted her when she collapsed, carrying her across dunes without complaint. "We'll find a river," he promised, though his lips cracked with thirst. The desert was merciless, and soon they would find it tested not only their strength, but their bond.
At last, a silver ribbon cut through the golden wasteland. A river. Aiyana stumbled to its edge, plunging her hands into the cool water, tears mixing with relief. Samuel knelt beside her, letting the water wash the dust from his face. For a brief moment, the desert's cruelty gave way to peace. Yet peace never lasted. As they drank, shadows moved among the rocks. Bandits, outlaws who preyed on travelers, stepped into view. Their leader, a scarred man with a pistol on his hip, sneered, "Well, look what we have, a runaway Apache girl and her cowboy fool." Samuel rose slowly, placing himself between Aiyana and the outlaws. His hand hovered near his holster. He was outnumbered 5-1, but retreat meant death.
Aiyana's breath quickened as steel glinted in the sun. She knew Samuel had risked everything for her, and now his life was on the line because of her. The leader smirked. "Hand her over, cowboy, and we'll let you walk." The desert wind carried silence. Then Samuel's voice, calm but firm. "I don't walk away from those under my care." The bandits laughed until Samuel's hand moved like lightning. But could even his skill save them both?
The silence shattered with a thunderclap. Samuel's revolver flashed, striking the leader before he could draw. Chaos erupted. Bullets whined past. Aiyana screamed as Samuel dragged her behind a rock. He fired with precision, his eyes steady, his body moving like a man born for survival. 2 outlaws fell, but the others pressed harder, their gunfire sparking against stone. Samuel's jaw tightened, his bullets were running low. Then something shifted. Aiyana, trembling, grabbed a fallen pistol. She had never held one before, but survival left no choice. She aimed, hands shaking, and pulled the trigger. A shot rang out. An outlaw dropped, eyes wide in disbelief. Samuel glanced back at her, surprise flashing, but also pride. Together, they pushed back the last attackers until silence returned, broken only by the river's flow. Aiyana's chest heaved. Her hands trembled, smoke rising from the pistol. Samuel placed his hand gently over hers, lowering the weapon. "You're stronger than they ever knew," he whispered. Her eyes burned with tears, not of fear, but of awakening. For the first time, she had defended herself. For the first time, she felt alive. But survival had a cost, and danger was only gathering.
That night, the firelight flickered against Aiyana's face. She sat silent, staring at her trembling hands. Samuel offered her food, but she shook her head. Finally, her voice broke the quiet. "They call me cursed," she said. "When I was born, the rain stopped. My mother died. My father, he never looked at me without shame." Samuel listened, his eyes heavy with empathy. He had his own ghosts, memories of a farm lost to greed, of a family buried beneath crosses. He knew the weight of being unwanted. "They saw weakness where there was only strength waiting," he said softly. "Sometimes the world fears what it doesn't understand." Aiyana looked at him then, really looked. His scars, his weary eyes, the way he carried sorrow like a second skin, and yet he still chose to stand by her. For the first time, she smiled, small, fragile, but real. In the distance, a coyote howled. Samuel's hand rested near his revolver, instincts sharp. He knew this peace was fragile. Enemies lingered, not just in the desert, but in the hearts of men who wanted them gone. And among those enemies, her father, the Apache chief who would not let this union go unanswered.
Back in the Apache camp, word had spread like wildfire. The cowboy had taken Aiyana, not in mockery, but in truth. The chief's pride burned hotter than the desert sun. His warriors mocked in whispers, saying he had lost face before his people. The chief clenched his fists. Aiyana had always been a thorn in his heart, a reminder of curses he could not forget. Now, bound to a white man, she was an insult he could not ignore. He summoned his fiercest riders. Find them, bring her back, and if he resists, spill his blood upon the sand. The drums of war beat again. Far away, Aiyana and Samuel walked hand in hand, unaware that vengeance rode on their trail. She laughed softly for the first time, a sound that startled even herself. Samuel smiled, savoring the rare moment of peace. But in the distance, dust rose on the horizon.
A storm was coming, not of nature, but of men driven by pride. The earth trembled beneath pounding hooves. Samuel spotted the dust storm first, his face hardening. They're coming. Aiyana's heart froze. She knew who it was, her father's wrath unleashed. Samuel grabbed her hand. They ran across the rugged canyon paths, every step echoing with the thunder of riders behind. Bullets whistled past, chipping stone. Samuel fired back, buying precious moments, but the riders closed in. At the canyon's edge, they faced a drop into a river far below. Aiyana's breath caught. "We can't," but Samuel's grip tightened. "Trust me." With warriors closing, their war cries splitting the air, Samuel pulled her into the leap. The world spun, air, water, silence, and then the crash of impact. They surfaced, gasping, the current dragging them downstream. Arrows pierced the water around them, riders shouting from above. The river carried them away, but not to safety. Exhausted, clinging to one another, they washed ashore miles later, wet, bruised, and alive. But Samuel knew the chase was not over.
Soaked and weary, Samuel and Aiyana stumbled into a canyon clearing. The sun dipped low, painting the rocks in blood-red light. They had run far, but not far enough. The Apache riders cornered them at last. The chief himself dismounted, his eyes filled with fire. He looked not at Samuel, but at his daughter. "You shame me," he spat. "You bring dishonor on us all." Aiyana's knees trembled, but Samuel stood tall, placing himself between them. "If it's blood you want, take mine," he said. "But she will not walk this path alone." The chief raised his spear. The warriors tightened their grip on bows and blades. But Aiyana's voice broke through. "Father!" she cried. The word cracked the canyon air. "All my life you called me cursed. But look, I am alive. I have fought. I have been seen. This man sees me not as a curse, but as a woman. And I will walk with him, even if it means death." The canyon fell silent. Even the chief's spear trembled. But would a father's pride bend, or would it shatter everything?
The chief's breath shook in his chest. Pride and anger warred with something deeper, something buried. For years he had cursed the daughter born in sorrow. For years he had turned away from her eyes, fearing they reflected failure. But now she stood tall, her voice unbroken, her spirit aflame. This was no cursed child. This was his blood, strong and unyielding. Slowly he lowered his spear. The warriors glanced at one another, their bows slackening. The chief's voice was hoarse. "Go," he said. "If you choose this man, then walk your path. But do not look back." Tears stung Aiyana's eyes. She bowed her head, not in defeat, but in gratitude. Samuel's arm wrapped around her, steady and sure. Together they walked from the canyon, the fading sun casting long shadows that stretched into tomorrow. The desert night embraced them, not as exiles, but as souls reborn. Their love had not erased hardship, it had not erased pain, but it had transformed mockery into truth, rejection into belonging, and loneliness into a bond unbreakable. And in that transformation lay the lesson that love, when chosen in truth, holds the power to defy curses, silence cruelty, and rewrite destiny. If you believe love can change fate, remember this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.